Hey guys, I wanted to continue my video on the Hawaii dragon ley line and some of the Masonic symbols and geomancy that is in Hawaii. So last time I just want to do a quick brief overview of some of the items in play here. This is the Hawaii State Capitol. Here's the Hawaii State Capitol. Real quick, I'll run through some pictures. It's a pretty impressive building. It's like a solar temple, double vortex, toroidal field, sky temple, open ceilinged, looks like giant rays, And so that's the Hawaii State Capitol. In line with the Hawaii State Capitol, directly behind it, is the statue of Queen Liliuokalani. She was in prison while she was alive, and now even in death, she is still being imprisoned. And in this statue here, they've put her in the eye. You can see that shape of her in that eye right there in a narrow corridor, not even in a building anymore. Here is a picture of that. Facing the state capitol, still in that eye right there. Directly in line with that, right here, is the King Kamehameha statue, separated by King Street. Here's a picture of that statue. There it is. And I cover more in detail all of that if you guys want to check out my other video on my YouTube channel. But I just wanted to do a brief overview before we expand into the larger picture. There's a interesting trident figure here. This is the United States Federal Building, an IRS building, and there's a giant medallion of the all-seeing eyes, the same symbolism that you see behind the US dollar. That giant pyramid with the all-seeing eye is in the same building in the direct same line. And as you continue this line, it comes up to this interesting triangle building, and that's where we kind of ended, and that's where I wanted to continue the video. Alright, so I was reading this Feng Shui book, and it's called Lightening the Eyes of the Dragon, which gave me the next piece to this part of the puzzle. And really, this is a script that I see. It's like rewriting a script, rewriting a spell, casting a spell, and that they've done it with the landmarks, with the buildings and temples and statues. And I'm sharing this so that we can all actively participate and understand what kind of script that they're trying to write for our collective. And I'd love to empower everybody to be able to like rewrite their own script and author, be the authority of their own story and of our collective story, and take charge of that and be the authority of our collective script. So I was reading this Feng Shui book, and it was talking about how when the British gave back Hong Kong to the to the mainland China, a Feng Shui master was hired to do the Feng Shui because they wanted to make sure that when Hong Kong was given back to mainland China, that that it would be a seamless conversion without losing any power, money, finance, or control, or whatever it is. So this well-known Feng Shui master was hired to do the Feng Shui for Hong Kong, and he said the mountainscapes of China resembled a dragon, and the head was in Hong Kong. The book was called Lighting the Eyes of the Dragon, a really amazing book on geomancy, on Feng Shui, on Bagua, the I Ching. I would highly recommend it. But here's a picture of that map. He said the energy of China represented a dragon, and the head was at Hong Kong. So this Feng Shui master was hired to make sure he could find a Feng Shui remedy to ensure that the power and the control of Hong Kong and all of China would remain strong and solid. Then when in the book, it also showed that in America's landscape also resembled a dragon, and the tail was in New York, the financial district, and the head was in LA, California, which is really interesting because now we have these two dragons in the Ring of Fire, and in the middle of the Ring of Fire, we have Hawaii, which is a pearl, and we have Pearl Harbor, where the East Dragon, controlled by Japan at that time, fought with the Western Dragon over control of the pearl. And here is a shot of the pearl for you. Here's the dragon with the pearl. Dragons are always shown chasing after the pearl. The pearl represents their power, their wisdom, their strength. And dragons and their claws, only the imperial dragons were allowed to have 5 claws if you were royalty and anything like that. The other, if you were nobility, you were only allowed to have 4 claws on your dragons. If you were of less nobility, you were only allowed to have 3 claws. And if your emblem, your clothes or statues had more claws than what you were allowed, it was considered punishable by death because it represented treason and a sign of wanting to rebel and overthrow the empire. So this dragon clutching this pearl is really interesting. If we go back to the Google Earth here, this building right here of the United States Coast Guard represents one of the claws of the dragon. Let me go back to this page here. Where is it? Here you go. Okay. This is United States bases and compounds in Hawaii. And on Oahu, all 5 of the fighting military forces are representing the 5 claws of the dragon. The Marine Corps, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Coast Guard, which was that triangular building, and it does look like a claw, one of the claws. Kauai only has the Navy, the Pacific Missile Range, Maui Coast Guard, and Big Island Army, and the Joint Services. But Oahu is represented by all 5 claws, trying to hold and possess the pearl. And what is interesting is that in Pearl Harbor, they started housing this sea-based X-band radar. And it is, they say it's a missile defense system, but I just wanted to point out one thing here. This is an octagon-based satellite protected by a round dome. And the number 8 represents is also significant for the Bagua, and the Hadron Collider also has a chamber that is octagon in shape. If we look at one thing I want to point out as well, if we look at the I want to go into this logo here real quick. This logo tells a lot about what this C-band radar is about. If you look at this logo, it is an 8-pointed star representing the 8 directions, the Bagua, the 8 forces of nature. And here, where the star is being shot out, it looks like a yin-yang symbol, the Tai Chi yin-yang symbol. But the majority of this logo is centered around outer space. There's a faint star right there, and it's centered out of space. They're shooting something from the Earth into outer space, and it tells me that it is more like a Star Wars program, a missile defense or missile offense program for outer space against friendly extraterrestrials. And that's what it looks like to me, and I just wanted to point that out. Alright guys, so let me know what you think. In that Feng Shui book, Lighting the Eyes of the Dragon, the Feng Shui cure for the situation in Hong Kong was that he lit the eyes of the dragon, and that he erected 2 towers signifying lighting the eyes of the dragon to control the soul of the dragon, and which controls the dragon itself. In this situation here, we have these 2 dragons of East and West fighting to possess the pearl, which is Hawaii, and it has something to do with an external possession and also an internal possession, from what I understand. In Hawaii, there's a rich mythology of the mo'os, which are the Hawaiian version of dragons. And through talking to some of the elders and the kahunas here, some even would say that the Hawaiians are descendants from the dragons, and that when they talk about genealogy, it's mo'okehau, or when they talk about their grandchildren, it's mo'o something, or when they talk about their stories, it's called mo'olelo, the stories that's been passed down into them. So there's seems to be a lot of dragon theme coming up, and it seems to be one of the oldest um, mythology in our creation story. In Hawaii, the mo'os are known as guardians and protectors of the water. Even in the east, or in Tibet, in um, Mongolia, the Nagas, or India, the Nagas or the dragons were known as guardians and protectors and controllers of the weather and the water. Only in the West did the dragons become evil and bad, and it's kind of like, to me, it's kind of like dogs or having pets or fighting chickens. You know, the dogs aren't bad or evil. It's the owners of the animal that dictate their habits. And in the East and a lot of indigenous cultures, the indigenous dragons here were considered wisdom keepers. All right, so what I keep getting is these dragons trying to possess this pearl, and how do we rewrite this script? Just like in Hong Kong, how the British Embassy controlled the head of the dragon and they lit the eyes of the dragon, thereby controlling the dragon itself. Now that we have this West dragon controlling the pearl and being the major world power player on the planet, the East dragon of China is actively trying to control the pearl. We see China being making moves out in the world, being more dominant, having more control and power, and they're actively buying up more land in Hawaii. And I would love to put this out to you guys and hear it from you guys. How do we rewrite the script? How do we awaken and activate the pearl within ourselves and rewrite the script? Seems like the power is and the wisdom is in the pearl. And what are your thoughts on this? Thanks for watching this video, and mahalo and aloha.